Hello, my name is Roisin and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be another vlog, and this is the one where I am participating in the Koreadathon, which is a readathon to encourage you to read more books from Korea and to just appreciate Korean culture more generally. And this is hosted by Books with Chloe and Monica Kim, who are Monica Kim is Korean American and Books with Chloe is Korean Australian, and they are both booktubers, and I will leave them linked in the description if you would like to go and check them out. There are several challenges, both reading challenges and just more lifestyle challenges, which include eating Korean food and watching K-dramas and sharing your favourite Korean content creators. So I'll be talking about those over the course of the week. But I thought I would start with opening some book post because my library had a surprising lack of access to Korean books, so I actually had to buy some. So the ones that I have bought Love in the Big City by Sang-young Park. Now I think that Matthew Shua and Hannah May have both talked about this book, which is a unique debut novel by a best-selling young star of Korean queer fiction. Young is a cynical yet fun-loving Korean student who pinballs from home to class to the beds of recent Tinder matches. He and Jae-hee, his female best friend and roommate, frequent nearby bars where they suppress their anxieties about their love lives, families and money with rounds of soju and freezer-chilled Marlboro Reds. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this one because I've heard great things about it, and I also think it's going to be quite a fun read at the same time. Here is the group book, which is Winter in Sokcho. I should hold it that way really, shouldn't I? And this is by Elisa, Shua, Dusapin. And this one is really lovely, really beautiful book. And this is about, it's winter in Sokcho, a tourist town on the border of South and North Korea. The cold slows everything down, bodies are red and raw, the fish turn venomous. Beyond the beach, guns point out from the north watchtowers. A young French-Korean woman works as a receptionist in a rundown guest house. One evening, an unexpected guest arrives, a French graphic novelist determined to find inspiration on this desolate landscape. And this was translated by Anissa Abbas Higgins, but I believe it was written in French, not in Korean. Oh God, just hit myself in the face with it. And then the final one, this one I think again Matthew Shua recommended, but this is The Court Dancer by Kyung, Sook, Shin. And this one is the one I'm most excited for because it's historical fiction, which I talk about a lot on this channel. I love some historical fiction. And this is based on a remarkable true story about the life of the dancer Yijin, an orphan who falls under the affections of the Empress and becomes a jewel in the late Johnson court. When she travels to Belle Epoque, Paris, with a young diplomat, Yijin lives a free, independent life away from the gilded cage of the court. Even in this new world, great sorrow and homesickness awaits her. Betrayal, jealousy and intrigue sabotage her homecoming, culminating with a tragic assassination of the last Joseon Empress and the poisoned pages of a book. So yeah, I'm excited for that one. I'm actually watching with my boyfriend right now Mr. Sunshine, which is about the late Joseon period as well. So yeah, looking forward to reading that. So I'll get back to you when I've actually read some books, when I'm making some Korean food, and I'm looking forward to this. If you watched my vlog in January where I was reading classics, I'll leave it in the cards above, you'll see that I became hooked on Crash Landing on You on Netflix, and I've since watched several K-dramas. I may rank them later on in this video. It will be fun to read some books. I have read Korean fiction before. I've read Kim Ji-young, Born at 1982, and If I Had Your Face, and ooh, those are the ones I can think of off the top of my head. Oh, Pachinko. I think there are some others, but I'm looking forward to this nonetheless. Hello, so first day of the Koreadathon, and I fell off my bike on the way to work, and the police had to escort me because they saw me sitting on the floor calling work rather than getting out the way, and they thought maybe I was seriously injured. I'm not. I've just grazed my elbow and it's kind of swollen. I think it's an abrasion, nothing too serious. I think there's probably a graze in my ankle as well because that feels a bit scrapey. But yeah, fell off my bike. First day cycling back to work after my bike came out of the shop. I'm sure I'll be grand. There's no one at work, so they kind of need me. Hello. So yesterday I fell off my bike, but today I have taken the day off work because I can't really move this shoulder or my neck after that fall. So I'm fine, it's not that bad, but I just couldn't really do much. But I have started reading for the Koreadathon. I've started listening to the audiobook of East Goes West by Younghill Kyung, which is said to be the first book by Korean American. So it fits in the Korean diaspora section or challenge for the Koreadathon. And this is a classic from 1937. And it's kind of auto-fiction about Younghill Kang's experience living in America in the 1920s and 30s, I think. I've only just begun it, but I thought the intro was really, really interesting because it was about Younghill Kang's biography and how he was interred by the Japanese twice because he grew up in Korea under Japanese occupation. And there is a first in this series about growing up in Korea under the Japanese occupation that I wish I could read, but I think it's not really in print anymore, so that's unfortunate. I've also read half of Winter in Sokcho by Elisa Shua Dusapin, which is the group book, and really I think I've already showed you it, but I love that cover. And so far I'm intrigued, I'm enjoying it. It's very, very short, so everything is happening quite quickly, but it's a very small story about this girl who is half Korean, half French, although she doesn't know her French father, and she's working in this like small town summer holiday place, and this French guy who's a cartoonist comes to visit and wants to explore Korea. And it's I would say like trigger warnings for like eating disorders and food stuff, but mostly it is bringing in a lot of ideas. The writing style itself is a little monotone, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. But I thought, since I'm not really doing very much at the moment because I fell off my bike, I would talk to you about some of the K-dramas I have been watching, because I just finished Startup, which is the 11th K-drama that I have watched since January. Now, most of them do only have like one series of 16 episodes, and I do watch things on 1.5 speed, so it hasn't taken that long. So I thought I would give you my rankings of the 11 K-dramas that I've watched and try to give you a one-sentence review. We'll see how good I am at being succinct, because it's not necessarily my speciality. So at number 11, the least favourite of all the K-dramas I've watched so far is Nevertheless. This is a romantic drama between on again, off again relationship between two art students in Seoul. If a man won't tell you whether he has a girlfriend or not, don't trust that man. Quite boring, but bonus points for the sapphic relationship of some of the secondary characters. Then at number 10, I have Romance is a Bonus Book, which is about an older woman going back into the workforce. Very interested in that section of it and the culture of work in Korea, and very beautifully shot, but absolutely no chemistry between the two leads. Then number 9, I have Strong Girl Bong Soon, which is about a girl who all of the women in her family have super strength, and she gets hired by a CEO to be his bodyguard. Really unfunny toilet humour and slapstick, and offensive gay stereotypes, but great chemistry. So like the opposite of Romance is a Bonus Book. Number 8, Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha. This one was very highly recommended, about a dentist who ends up leaving a competitive practice in Seoul to go and set up her own practice in a small town, a small seaside town, and gave me the first 10 episodes, loved it, Gilmore Girls vibes, absolutely, handyman and quirky characters in the town. Then the main couple get together and I wanted to strangle them. Number 7, Memories of the Alhambra. This is about an AR game being developed in the south of Spain. Deaths and murders that start happening because of that. I thought this one was probably objectively a better show than some of the others, more going on, but I'm not a sci-fi girl, and so I really didn't like that. Also, women are only allowed to cry. That's their only activity in this drama. Number 6, It's Okay Not to Be Okay, about a boy whose mum was murdered and a woman who writes children's stories but has antisocial personality disorder, and this is kind of a thriller romance. One of the most beautiful in terms of production design and development. I really loved that aspect of it. Overall, it just didn't hook me as much. Number 5, Our Beloved Summer, about two people who knew each other doing a documentary in high school, and then they meet again 10 years later because they want to do another documentary about them. Very slow moving indie movie kind of style, one of the most beautiful. If you're into like style and design, I think you would like this one. Number 4, Her Private Life, probably the cheesiest on this list, but I actually really loved it. About a woman who is a fan account for a K-pop star who works at an art gallery, a man who's an artist who becomes the director of that art gallery, and they end up having to fake date in order to avoid her being discovered as head of a fan account. And whilst it took 4 episodes for me to actually be interested in the story at all, and the side storylines didn't quite grab me, some of the best chemistry in a K-drama. Number 3, because this is my first life, this one's a contract marriage between 2 people who decide that for money reasons it would make sense for them to get married. And I really enjoyed the look at work and womanhood in Korea. There's a look at sexual assault, harassment at work, the difficulty of like maintaining a relationship and buying houses and having a family in Korea. I thought it really dealt with those issues well, and it's very much more slow moving and undersold than some of these others, but I really enjoyed it. Number 2 is the one I just finished, Startup. I really enjoyed this one, and I feel like it had mixed reviews from what I've seen online, and I think that's because it's a love triangle, and if we want the one that she doesn't end up with, maybe you don't like it as much, but I don't understand why people would want her with that one. Anyway, a girl who had letters written to her when she was young and her father passed away, she decides to try and find this guy, and also at the same time it's about this entrepreneur boot camp where they're trying to start startups, and she wants to start a business, and a guy who is a developer and another guy who is like an investor, and it turns out the investor guy wrote the letters, but he used the name of the developer guy to write them, and romance ensues. Romance and jealousy ensue. Really liked this one. Felt really wholesome, felt quite down to earth and grounded despite that like convoluted setup, and I thought the chemistry again was wonderful, and I really liked the acting of the leads. Now my number 1, I've already mentioned I think in this vlog that this is what got me started on watching a load of K-dramas, and nothing has yet knocked it off the top spot, and that is Crash Landing on You, the drama about a heiress whose brothers have it in for her, who ends up accidentally crash landing into the DMZ, where she meets a North Korean soldier who tries to guide her back to South Korea, but she runs the wrong way and ends up in his house in North Korea. And he has to somehow get her home, because if they catch her, she will reveal that he let her go. This one is very melodramatic and over the top. There's lots of like slow motion and ballads going on, but honestly I absolutely fell in love. From what I've discovered, Soon Jin and Hyun Bin, who are the 2 lead characters, are like some of the best paid well-known Korean actors, and their acting is really good. A couple of actors in it from Parasite. So it's more melodramatic than I'm used to, and it does have a lot of the tropes that I've noticed continue throughout a lot of these Korean dramas. Love triangles, people secretly knew each other before the start of the drama but they don't realise it. Giving people piggybacks seems to be a thing. People getting drunk, looking after someone when they're sick, taking a bullet, taking a wound for someone else. There's quite a lot of tropes that seem to come up over and over again, but it was the first one I watched, so I didn't know about the tropes then. Maybe I wouldn't have loved it as much, but I think I would. If you are looking for a K-drama to watch, those top 5 I would definitely recommend, and then 6 and 7, Memories of Alhambra and It's Okay Not to Be Okay. If you're more into like thriller and action sci-fi stuff, then they might be for you. I'm clearly into romance, that's what I've been watching. If you have any that you would recommend me watch after seeing my list, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, because clearly I'm obsessed. But yeah, really been enjoying them. I think that Korea obviously has like a big television industry and they make very high quality stuff, but also I love that they tend to only be 1 series, so nothing gets too dragged out, and I have to watch with subtitles, so I actually focus and watch the whole thing rather than fanning about on my phone. Hopefully I will get some stuff done this week that's not just being in my house and cooking Korean food and reading books, but hopefully, even if that is all I get done, you will enjoy it. I'm hoping to have my friends over for dinner on Sunday, and I've got soju for that event, so we'll see what happens. Otherwise it'll just be me drinking soju, because whilst my boyfriend will definitely taste it, he doesn't come on camera. So now let's see how I can turn this off without moving my shoulder. Morning. I am about to go on a walk, because otherwise I will have been in my house non-stop for the 2nd day in a row, despite the fact my shoulder still hurts and my elbow really hurts. I'm gonna go on a walk. Yeah, this is all my clean laundry that needs to be put away, but folding not easy right now. So what was I going to say? I finished Winter in Sokcho, and I will talk to you about that a bit later. I'm still sort of meditating on it. I'm going to start reading The Court Dancer today, but again, I'll talk to you about that when I get back from my walk. I'm sleepy, but we're going to go on a walk, and hopefully we're going to find some nice nature. So I'll bring you with me to hopefully show you something nice while I'm off walking around. I have another Korean recipe to make tonight, so hopefully I will get on with making that. It's a soft tofu recipe, and years ago when I first started eating tofu, like trying to cook it for myself, the only tofu I could find in the UK, so this was like when I was at uni, so like 10 years ago, was silken tofu, soft tofu. I don't know if those are the same thing. I think they are, but they might not be. But that was the only type I could find, and I was always annoyed because all the recipes called for firm tofu. Now all I can find is firm tofu, extra firm tofu. So whilst this is a soft tofu recipe, the only tofu I could find was extra firm. So I'm going to do my best. Hopefully the stew will still taste good. The tofu will just be the wrong texture, which is annoying, but there you go. I left my tripod upstairs and I'm feeling super lazy today, so I can't be bothered to get it, so that's why you're at this strange angle. I'm back from my walk now, and I'm going to take the dressing off my elbow, and I'm going to show you. I know some people won't want to see this, so I will put a timestamp to skip to. I will make a chapter so you can skip away from this if it's something that you are not interested in. But hang on, let me try and take this off. Okay, so here we go. Here's my elbow. Antiseptic. Partly doing this so I can actually see it because it's around the back of my elbow. Oh, that looks a bit grim. Okay, that didn't hurt. That's good. Have you ever got a graze on your knee in school when you had tights on, and then you came to take your tights off and it ripped the scab off? That's what I'm afraid that this is going to do. Eee, okay, yep, that stings. Ah, ah, ah. Fucking hell. Ooh. There we are. There we are. I won't show you them because they're gross. That's the worst of it. It's all a bit yellow. I think that's the iodine. And it's all formed in a grid pattern, this weird stuff. Okay, it's stinging quite a lot now, but I think you're supposed to air it, aren't you? Oh, that stings a lot. Oh, there's my bad elbow with no skin on it. So, like I said, I finished Winter in Sokcho, but I needed some time to meditate on my thoughts about this book. I enjoyed it, and then also felt really disconnected from it, which is generally speaking not something that I hugely enjoy in books. The writer is clearly dealing with a lot of like mental health things, and so there's that distance going on. There was a lot of like metaphor and imagery that I thought were quite well used, but I never quite, like, I felt like they never got concrete enough for my personal taste, and I never felt like I could reach through. I thought that the descriptions of the landscape and of like the fish and everything, I thought that that was really well done. It really evoked this place. It feels like a short story in some ways, in that it's very like there's no like not point, but it doesn't come to any firm conclusions, and I don't like books that are very navel gazing and stuck in the character's head. This isn't that. It is very much about her interactions with the world and with the things that are going on around her. It's such a short book, I feel like I don't have huge amounts to say about it. In that vibe of, if you like books about depressed women who are really apathetic and not very interested in the world, I think that you would enjoy this, but I tend to need a little more connection. I've also started to read The Court Dancer by Kyung Shin, and I'm enjoying it. I think that the writing, I don't know if it's the writing itself or the translation, feels a little awkward in places, but I am enjoying the development of this character. I feel like she's well developed, and I'm really pleased because the first chapters are about the court dancer just before she goes to France, and there were all these hints about what happened in the past, and I was a bit worried it was just going to keep going, but I'm glad it's gone back in time. It's interesting to read about Korea in a different time period. I've not read historical fiction from a Korean writer before, so I am enjoying that aspect of it. Only about 50 pages in, so I will give you more of my thoughts as I go further. Hello, so it is Friday today. A third of the way through The Court Dancer by Kyung Shin. So far I am enjoying the setting and the description of the beauty of the pagodas and the landscape and everything. It feels really well done. There was a moment with the camera that so confused me. I feel like it wasn't described until after the setting, so I spent like 3 pages being like really confused about what was going on with this camera. The writing itself though doesn't really appeal to me. It does feel a bit like awkward, and I'm also finding like it is really describing a lot of Korean culture and like the reasons for Korean culture, the reasons why things are being done this way, and it feels like I don't usually love that. I'd prefer to just be jumped in and have things not explained to me, kind of either work things out or just accept things as they are rather than needing it to be explained. And it does work for me when it's in regards to the French legate, is that the title, who's in there, and someone's explaining something to him, or he's explaining how he sees the difference between China and Korea, because as an outsider he would have that view, but when it's just a load of Korean people talk like in the scene and yet they're still describing why the Korean culture's happened in the description, in the like, I just don't love that, because it reveals the writer, because it feels like you're being explained to because maybe you won't understand. But as you may be able to tell, my fatigue is not great today. I am feeling just exhausted. When your legs just hurt, the rest of me feels tired, but my legs, particularly my hips, maybe it's because that's where I've got arthritis, but my thighs and hips just ache. And yeah, so I'm trying. I mean, I look like a vampire in this viewfinder. That might be the lighting. I'm sure I don't look that bad in real life. Maybe I'm kidding myself, but yeah, I don't know how much exciting things I'm going to get up to today.
Shin was the option to his left. Sexton.
It is Sunday, the last day of the Koreadathon, and today we were supposed to be having people over for dinner, but they've all caught COVID, so that's not going to be happening, but we are doing a big spring clean. I am about 3/4 of the way through this, The Court Dancer by Kyung Shin, and I am enjoying the story. It's very slow moving. There's not a huge like plot or amount that happens. It's very much about her experience in Paris as a Korean woman, and the experience of like the fetishization of the East by Europeans, particularly in this respect in the late 19th century. It's quite on the nose, like particularly there was a part where she went to the Louvre and she was talking about all the like objects that have been stolen from around the world and are in the Louvre, and she was talking about that, and it did feel quite on the nose. I don't know if it's just translation, because it's something that I've noticed with some of the others as well, but it just feels like it's not my preferred style of writing, and there's lots of like anachronisms with the language, which, you know, because it's set in the 19th century, but it's been translated into quite a modern English, so it doesn't feel very 19th century. I don't know if that is true of the original, because obviously I'm reading the translation in English, so I can only judge the writing of the translation. I've talked about this a lot before when I'm reading translated works, that it's difficult to judge. There is some description and that is quite nice, but it's not like consistent. So yeah, I think it's nice and I like it, but it's not my preference in terms of the beauty of the writing, the development of the characters. I like it, but it's an enjoyable reading experience, but I'm not feeling any particular like draw to it. Then I've also begun The Vegetarian by Han Kang, which won the Booker International in 2016, and so this is one of the prompts was to read a prize-winning book. This is the one that I'm reading for that, and it's interesting reading this. I've read a few of the Booker International Prize books in the past. I've read The Discomfort of Evening, Celestial Bodies, Jose Eduardo, the one about Angola, and that one was my favourite. But the thing that I feel like I've noticed is out of all of these four, and obviously that's not universal for the prize, they are quite distanced in terms of writing, very weird people doing like difficult to read about shit. Like there's a lot of like sexual assault in these things, and it's like all a bit gross. All of them have a bit of grossness to them, which I think is an interesting theme to have discovered among the ones that I've read. But yeah, this, as I said through that description, the writing style again isn't my favourite. There's not a huge amount of description, and it's all feels very simplistic, the writing style, which is not to my taste, generally speaking. Is that the Hoover? I think he's just started hoovering. He heard me talking to you. I'm going to talk to you over the Hoover because I don't have time otherwise. For fuck's sake. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel. I'm only this far in, so we're only in the beginning, but so far, from the perspective of this really horrible husband, like he is horrible and I hate him, but you are, I believe, meant to. I think it's interesting because everyone's so disgusted by her vegetarianism. The people that she's interacting with seem to be terrible people. Like they're also perfectly fine with removing her agency and doing things to her that are not fine. And so those are the people who are attacking the vegetarianism. And also her vegetarianism is more of like an eating disorder in a lot of ways. But anyway, there is a lot going on in this book already, and I'm only 50 pages in. I'm just not sure the writing style is for me, but I'll keep reading. I'm also about halfway through East Goes West by Younghill Kyung, and I am enjoying that one. The writing style is very, like, there's mixtures of poetry and it's quite humorous. I think that our main character is quite naive, or maybe just naive to the American world, because I can see him getting swindled every time. I think we are supposed to, as readers, understand that he is not grasping what's going on to him, and so he's easily like tricked and manipulated, and so that leads to some humour studying as a student. And so I'm enjoying the talks about the difference between Eastern and Western conceptions of academia in the early 20th century, and his look at the culture and the differences there and the things that are missing in some ways from seeing this culture as an outsider. I think it's well done. I do completely appreciate him as a character. I feel like he reminds me a lot of characters from this style of like early 20th century American book, like outsider looking in, and it has a feel of other books I've read that are set in a similar time period. Writing feels a bit archaic for the 1930s, but I'm not sure. It's not a period of time I read a huge amount from, so maybe I'm mistaken, but the way he's forming sentences, it feels archaic, and I think that's adding to the charm and also adding to the sense that he's like not of the culture that he's in. So I am enjoying it. The other one that I have is Love in the Big City, but I haven't started reading this yet, and I don't know if I'm going to have time because I've got to finish those other 3 books before the end of today. So I don't think I'm going to have time for Love in the Big City, which is a shame because this is the one probably that I was most looking forward to, and that's why I'm saving it for the end. It's recently been longlisted for the Booker International. It is one that everyone I know who's read it has really, really loved. So I'm definitely going to read it at some point. I just don't think I'm going to have the time to read it in this vlog, unfortunately. But yeah, it's probably would have been my favourite, I'm assuming. So that's unfortunate. But I'm going to go clean my entire kitchen and then this office, which you can't see what it looks like, but it is not the best. Hello, so this is Yuja Cha. I know you're a bit high up, I can't do anything about it, sorry. But yeah, this is Yuja Cha, which is tea, a kind of tea is it a kind of tea? It doesn't have any tea in it. Essentially it's Yuja, which is a fruit, which doesn't have very much juice and is mostly pith, with honey and sugar. It's kind of like marmalade, I guess. That was what it was in that jar, and then you mix it with hot water. I believe that it is often drunk by people when they are sick, which makes sense because honey, lemon, hot water is something my mum would always make for me when I was sick. Although if I was properly complaining about it, she'd put garlic and turmeric and black pepper in it as well, so it was much less delicious. Yuja, I believe, is the Japanese word for it is yuzu, which is something that I have heard of. Like there's yuzu beers, and it smells, interestingly enough, it smells of tonic water. I don't think there's any Yuja in tonic water. I don't know if there's any quinine in Yuja, but anyway, it smells of tonic water. It tastes nice though. I mean, tonic water tastes nice too, but it doesn't taste as like dry and bitter as tonic water. It's much sweeter, but I think there is sugar in tonic water, so anyway, yeah, it's quite sweet, it's quite tasty. It made me wonder if you could make like marmalade tea and do the same thing with marmalade, because from what I can tell, the ingredients are fairly similar. Hello! So we are at the end of the Koreadathon. It is actually a day later and this is going up late. I started a new job this week, so I'm not entirely on top of things as I should be. But regardless, I've finished some books. I'm going to talk to you about the books. So I finished The Court Dancer, and after saying that this, like, I was liking it but I wasn't loving it, it wasn't like 100% for my style, but I liked the story and I liked the things that it was doing, talking about like language. I cried. This book made me cry. Not like properly bawling, but I definitely welled up. So it definitely hit me emotionally, which is all you can really ask for from a book. It's doing some very interesting things in terms of, like I said, it was a little heavy-handed with the interactions between the cultures, and it was also very fast-paced, like, okay, weird pace in terms of plot, because we travelled quite quickly through a lot of time periods, but most of the actual plot points happen off screen until the very end when it's like, oh my god, so much is happening. But a lot of the plot points happen off page, as it were. So the plot, it feels very slow moving, but a lot is happening at the same time, so which can feel a little imbalanced. The writing style, like I said, wasn't 100% for me, because there were a lot of like modernisms in there which felt odd considering the time period, and even just the way sentences were phrased felt inconsistent, because there would be like this beautiful description and then this kind of jarring when it was trying to do dialogue or more plot-based stuff. It felt like those two things weren't quite married together well enough, but the characters were wonderful and I obviously was very emotionally invested. There was one character in here who I wish so much more for, to be honest. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I really was intrigued by the time period. Like I said, I've been watching Mr. Sunshine, and that is set at a similar time period, so interesting to consider those two together. I also finished The Vegetarian by Han Kang, and as I was saying about The Court Dancer, I was saying I wasn't really sure about this after the first 50 pages. I loved this book. And I'm really surprised by how much I loved this book, because like the first section, like I was saying, the writing didn't really speak to me, it felt really awkward, and part of that was this guy, this perspective of this really abhorrent man. But then the second section is from a different perspective, and the third section again is from another perspective, and I just loved it. And the writing style changed between each of the three, and I really loved the style of that writing, the way that it was talking about objectification and women's positions, and I thought that it was very clever to be from a male perspective for the first two, because the different ways that the woman who is the vegetarian in this, the things that she's going through, and the objectification of her, I thought they were explored in a really interesting way. Like I said, there's a lot of violence and sexual violence that I would warn you for if that's something that you need to be warned about, but this book really grew on me. Obsession and passion and unhingedness of just all of the characters in this book. The second section was so gripping and so like drew me through it, and then the third section was so sad, and I really felt the power of it, and the power of the main character, who is just through abnegation, through rejection of everything, is rebelling, and the way that that causes other people to react to her, and their obsession with like control, and like it said, there's a line in it about how your own body, you should be able to do whatever you like to your own body, but even that's not allowed, and it's the ways in which she's not allowed control over her own body, and the like violence of that, because she's put through force from family members and from the medical state. Yeah, really wonderfully interesting book, and I know that's not an original thought. It won the International Booker, and I know a lot of people have loved this, but I don't know, it took, like, the first section I didn't love, and I'm so glad I didn't put it down, because I didn't hate it either, but I could have put it down at that point, and just the second 2 sections were just so brilliant. So yeah, 2 surprises, 2 turnarounds from this video, which kind of explains why I don't often DNF books, because like, how can I be feeling sort of meh about a book and then burst into tears or fall in love? Like, there's so much more that can happen, and that's why I feel, I know it's a sunk cost fallacy, but sometimes you miss out if you don't finish a book that wasn't working for you so well to begin with. I haven't finished East Goes West yet. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. It's a longer book than I was expecting, and also something's up with me in audiobooks at the moment. Used to absolutely love them and listen to everything on audio. At the moment, struggling to concentrate, which I know a lot of people have talked about not liking audio for that reason, and it's not something I've ever related with before, but at the moment I'm struggling to concentrate on audiobooks. So I'm still enjoying it. If you want my full final thoughts, you'll have to subscribe and watch my March wrap up when I've actually finished it. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing this. I love Korean food. So I really enjoyed, I don't know how authentic they are. I was using authentic recipes. Well, all the recipes I used were from Koreans or Korean Americans, but I didn't necessarily get hold of all of the authentic ingredients, because like, I live in the UK where there is a smaller Korean population, and I don't live in a big city either. So both of those things make it more difficult for me to get hold of stuff. I did order some stuff online, but regardless, and I never drank my soju. I will stop rambling now, but thank you for watching. Please remember to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and let me know in the comments down below what you thought, and if you have any K-drama recommendations for me. I started watching Forecasting Love and Weather, but I've stopped watching it. It's not for me. But let me know, and if you aren't subscribed already, please do subscribe. I put out new videos twice a week, so I will see you again very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.